the main instructions. I see it because you're all sitting pretty much, or most of you. So just whatever is relaxed, just somewhat upright. In a few moments, I'm going to ask you something that people don't like to do. It's to close your eyes in a room full of 100 people. It's not something that people go to readily and want to do, but trust me, even I'll be there with you. So what you're going to do, quite simply, you're just going to follow your breath. You're just going to watch your breath going in, watch your breath going out. And I guarantee you, within a few seconds, you're going to realize that you're thinking about something else. You're going to disappear. You're going to lose your breath. And it may in that 1 minute, it may happen a dozen times, it may happen 100 times. All you do is you don't say, damn, I can't even keep my eyes on the freaking breath. You just say, oh, I lost focus. You bring it back and you go back to breathing again. Okay, so you just every time it does. And by the way, every time you realize that you're not focused on your breath, you've just made progress because you've just become slightly more mindful. You've just realized, I've lost focus on what I was trying to focus on. So just stay with your breath, with your eyes closed. When every time you lose focus, just go back to the breath again. And at the end of it, I'm going to ask you what you noticed. So if we go with that.
Then close your eyes. Oh, one more thing. It's okay to smile. And go. As you open your eyes, notice how you feel right now. Maybe a little bit.
Exactly. So tell me, let me ask that again. What did you notice? Anything. Every observation is a good observation.
I forgot where I was.
You forgot where you were.
I had to consciously remember that I'm in a room full of 100 people.
Okay.
I mean,
okay.
it was like I almost fell asleep.
Was it you almost fell asleep? Somebody else. Any other observations, sir?
It was difficult.
Yeah.
I kept losing
Focus on the breath.
I heard a truck going by.
Yeah.
I heard someone talking. I heard a hum. And I kept telling myself, stop focusing on these other distractions.
And bring yourself back. And how many other people had that experience? You're breathing and then somebody makes a noise and you go, oh, there's a noise over there. Oh, darn, I'm not breathing. I'm not watching my breath. How many other people had that experience? And now, let me ask you, how different day to day is that to the world that you live in, where you're trying to get something done in the office and things keep coming in, like an email goes boom, or a car goes by, or somebody says you come in for coffee. There's a certain analogy there, isn't there? It's kind of a similar sort of situation. Anybody else, any particular experience? Anything at all? What was that? Yeah, as time went on, the breaths got deeper. Great, super.
I thought 1 minute would be quite short, but
Yeah.
it sounded as if it was very long.
1 minute, that's a great observation. 1 minute can be an awful long time. And you know, there's probably a part of you saying, I wonder if they really got their eyes closed. So there's an element of that going on there as well. But at the end of the day, the technique itself is actually really, really simple. There are no difficult mechanics in this to achieve the sort of results that you saw in the beginning there. I'll talk about this in a moment, but in general, anything that we do, when we set an intention to do it, we tend to do it better. So if you're sitting down to write a sales proposal saying, I'm going to write a proposal that is going to absolutely thrill Samsung, you're more likely to write that sort of proposal if you tell yourself that's what you're there to do. So, why have I gone red, I wonder? That doesn't matter. So when you sit down to meditate, it should be with a particular intention. Whether it's, I want to reduce my stress, I want to relax, I want to chill and get away for 2 minutes, or I just want to spend some time with myself. And then the process is very, very simple. You're following your breath and it's focused. And I guarantee you, you'll lose the focus in 30 minutes 1,000 times. And the moment that you realize, oh, I'm worrying, I'm thinking, I'm fantasizing, I'm listening to the noises, and you say, I need to get back to the breath. In the moment that you recognize that, you have flexed that attentional muscle. You have started the process of becoming attuned to the need to be able to return your attention back to where you want it. And so you go back to the breath. And so the process itself is terribly, terribly simple. Some people spend 2 minutes a day on it, some people spend 5, some people spend 30, some people spend 4 or 5 weeks on retreats doing it for 9 hours a day. But the research shows a few minutes a day make a dramatic difference. And look at the analogy. Imagine in that piece up there, instead of following breath, you're just trying to focus on the task that you're trying to do day to day. You're just trying to get a job done in the office. The work that you do in the gym, learning to recognize when you've lost attention upon what you are supposed to be focusing upon, works in the outside world, because what you're then learning to do, you're training your brain that when he says he wants to pay attention here, he means it. What do you mean? He doesn't want to be here? No. Here? No. Here? No. So it's really very, very simple technique. And over time, and not a lot of time, over time you get to a stage where distractions become less important. You see them, you say, I got distracted, and then you move on. Here's an interesting little thing for the engineers in the audience, the mechanically minded. Is it right? Yes, it is. Tell me, anybody, which one of these cogs is driving the other? So is the left-hand one driving the right-hand one, or is the right-hand one driving the left-hand one? Anybody?
The left one.
The left? How many think it's the left? Okay. How many think it's the right? How many think you couldn't possibly know? Reality is, I don't know which one. And it doesn't actually matter. The reality is that if one of those moves, the other moves. If the left-hand one moves, the right-hand one moves, or the right-hand one moves, the left-hand one moves. And there's a wonderful analogy there between your emotions and bodily sensations. Every bodily sensation that you feel, it could be, I'm hungry, I have a little bit of indigestion or whatever, expresses itself in some way in your emotions. That's why sometimes we get ratty when we're hungry. That's why sometimes we tend to be more likely to fly off the handle and get angry when we're sick or upset, when our body is out of kilter. Now, the nice thing about this is if emotions cause bodily sensations, and bodily sensations cause emotions, if we can start to recognize our bodily sensations, we have an easier way into seeing our emotions as they pass through us day to day. So if you watch the tide of the sensations in your body going back and forth, you're effectively following the tide of your emotions. So one way into mindfulness is through the body as well. Let me show you a really easy way. Just take that position that Boris had before. Sit into a nice upright position, your feet on the ground. And sit forward. Don't let your back into the chair. So sit forward so that you're in a kind of an energetic pose, upright. Now, put yourself where you're relaxed. And what I want you to do is bring your attention to your feet, the soles of your feet, where they touch the ground. I don't mean visualize it. I mean reach out and feel it. Feel the sensation of your feet on the ground, where they're touching maybe the inside of your shoes. And feel the weight, for example, of your legs maybe down on top of the soles of your feet. And just feel that sensation. You may feel tingling, it may feel hot or cold, it could feel heavy. Whatever it is good. Just be aware of it. Now, some people find it useful to imagine that there are roots growing out of their feet into the ground that are trying to drag them down. Just be aware of the feet there. Tune into it. Now, while you're still there, bring your attention to your backside, to your seat. Feel your behind on the chair. So become aware of where your backside makes contact with the cloth of your skirt or your trousers, and where you're touching the chair. And you'll probably feel the pull of gravity as you notice that, and just let yourself relax a little bit. And just make yourself aware, as I say, of the sensations in your feet and in the cheeks of your behind. Just for a few seconds. So just do that for a few seconds. And when you do that, and you bring your attention to any part of your body like that, the first thing that happens is you are absolutely in the moment. You are absolutely here and now. You've tuned in, you've reached out to your body, and one of the nice things about that exercise is it shows you that you can actually reach out to any part of your body and experience what's going on when you've trained yourself. If you can reach out to any part of your body and experience what's going on, you'll start to recognize where you feel certain emotions. You'll start to recognize over time where you feel anger, where you feel anxiety. And just simply recognizing it is often enough to defuse it. Okay? So, by the way, let me tell you from a business perspective, if you've ever, maybe you've never had this experience. You're sitting in a meeting with somebody and your attention starts to wander. That's probably never happened to you. Okay? It happens to me all the time. And you're saying, this is important to me, I really want to get this, but your attention is still wandering. Or maybe you're getting a little bit of the noddies. You know, that sort of thing. Simply, because it's not practical to sit down, close your eyes, take a few breaths, and start doing your little bit of meditation. Bringing your attention to your seat and your feet brings you back into that moment. It's a great technique when you're listening to people, just to bring yourself back. Okay? So very, very simple. Now, mindfulness training is focused a lot around helping you to recognize those sensations in your body, to tune in and to make use of them as sources of information about how you're feeling about situations and people and so on and so forth, so that you become much more self-aware. Now, I'm going to do a combination now of the body and the mind, and we're going to take just 5 minutes, and I'm going to blend all that together. And we're going to do something which, here's 5 minutes that if you never read a book on mindfulness, and you never go to a teacher, and you never do anything again, but you think, that has some merit, that might be an interesting thing to try. This 5 minutes, this technique is as much as you need to get going. Okay? So what I'm going to ask you to do in a moment is I'm going to ask you to start by setting an intention to meditate. And you can decide whether that's, I want to sharpen my focus, I'm going to meditate for 5 minutes, I'm going to sharpen my focus for this session, or I'm going to meditate for 5 minutes and I'm going to get rid of the stress that I felt since I walked in here this morning, whatever. And then I'm going to ask you to take 3 slow, deep breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth. And the reason for that, by the way, is the mechanism, the wiring that you have that drives that fight or flight response is the sympathetic nervous system. And if yours is like mine, it spends more time on than it should. There's an off switch for that. It's called the parasympathetic nervous system. And the simplest way to tell it that you want it to relax, you want to turn off that response, is just those deep, slow breaths. So those 3 breaths set you up. But it also has a second, in my experience, it has a second value. By going through that sort of routine at the beginning, you're signaling to yourself, I'm getting ready to just come down. So that the body gets over time to realize when he takes the 3 breaths, he's getting ready to meditate. Then I'm going to get you to do seat and feet. And then I'm going to ask you if you would consider doing a little half smile. And for those of you who are, well, no, let me not give away. I almost gave away a secret there. But let me tell you that when you smile, it induces the chemical into your brain that makes you feel better about things. So it's no harm to have a little sort of a half smile. It's better than sitting there like that. Yeah, so a little half smile. So let's do that. Oh, and I'm going to need and I'm going to need you to give that a little bong at 5 minutes. Okay, after we start, you can give us a little ring. You should have seen the look on the faces. I forgot to bring my bell with me. And I searched Ho Chi Minh City trying to find it. And you should have seen the look on the faces of people when I was walking in with my phone showing a picture of a singing bell, trying to find one. One they thought, is foreigners just nuts? And two, what do we want with that thing? Anyway, so let's sit down and just, again, assume the position. And just get a nice, nice comfortable, upright, not into the back of your chair, just upright, sitting, head balanced well. And before you do anything, just think, what's your intention for this? What's your intention for the next 5 minutes? Do you want to chill? Do you want to relieve some stress and so on and so forth? Just set an intention. And then, so do that. Okay? Now 3 breaths in your own time. In through the nose, out through the mouth slowly. So. Now find your seat and your feet. Just tune in as you did before. And close your eyes and watch your breath. Now, every minute or so, I'll talk to you. I don't mean ignore me, but until the bell goes, we're not finished. It'll just to remind you of what we're doing. So remember, follow your breath. If you lose focus on the breath, don't get annoyed. Just return the focus back. And keep your awareness on the seat and feet as you breathe. frustrated, just bring it back again. And see while you're breathing if you can still be aware of your seat and your feet. Wow. What did you notice? 5 minutes is a long, it is a long time, isn't it? And what's amazing about that is that 5 minutes, it feels like a long time, and yet you're stealing nothing from a day to take 5 minutes during a working day and find a corner and do that.
I thought your job is so easy. You bring people here and do nothing.
Yeah, exactly. Somebody else. Any observation is a good observation.
Actually, because I think that I'm always distracted by noises, so
Yeah.
I set a little bit kind of tactic, before before starting the meditation. So I just set a tactic that when I'm breathing in,
Yeah.
I should focus on one point,
Yeah.
Like front hand, for example. And then when I'm breathing out, I focus on just the feet. So I try to follow with that kind
Okay.
of flow of fresh air.
Yeah.
So, yes,
So you're following the flow of the breath from here
Yes.
down towards your
Yes,
feet and back
yes.
again. Great strategy. I use the tip of my nose because it's very obvious that's there. I tend to focus upon the tip of my nose as the start point. And what I've been trained to do is to feel it in my abdomen, so you feel it going from there and out to your abdomen. And what can be useful sometimes is, as well, when you get distracted, say, noise, thinking, worrying. And once you label something, you find it goes away. It's when you say, I'm not going to listen to that, I'm not going to listen to that, I'm not going to listen to that, that you do listen to it. Did anybody find it made them more stressed than when they came in this morning? It made you more stressed, did it indeed? How?
The first couple minutes,
Yeah.
I started feeling anxious, I was breathing faster, I was feeling cold.
Okay.
And then I had to tell myself, wait, this is just, relax.
Relax, chill,
And,
chill.
By the time you spoke again,
Mm.
that's when I had to focus and force myself.
Yeah.
In the first 2 minutes, I was.
Bouncing all over the place. What's interesting, this gentleman said, he said, the first few minutes, I was getting anxious, I was getting wound up. This is, as I said, a secular technique, but it comes from Buddhism, and the Buddhists have a great expression. They talk about monkey mind. And say that your mind is like a monkey, a drunk monkey, swinging from branch to branch. And that's what happens when you sit down at first, but eventually it calms itself down and sorts itself out. What's interesting about this is the more you do it, the more you notice the effect that it has on, let's call it, the real world. Because you're in a gym. This is really just a mental gym. This is just mental training. The picture on the left, how many people here have learned to ride a regular bike? Pretty much everybody? Good, okay. You never know culturally. I thought maybe everybody in Vietnam learned to ride a motorbike before they learned to ride a pedal bike, because it looks like that to an Irish guy. So most people have, and most people started off with those little stabilizer wheels. Okay? And then it came the day when, at least in Ireland, mamas never did it, but I couldn't get a picture. But Papa got you out at one stage, he put the hand on the saddle, he said, pedal like mad, son, and then without letting you know, he sent you going. And what happened as you took off? The bike started at some stage, say, to tilt this way, towards the left. And he said, oh dear God, it's going to fall over. So what did your body do? It threw it this way. And so it started overcorrecting. And you threw it that way, and you threw it that way. And so you took off down the road like this. Okay? Following day, you were going like this. Straight line. Reality is, you're still wobbling like mad. It's just that the wobbles have become much smaller because you've learned how to correct them, recognize it, and make an appropriate response. So everybody on a bike is actually wobbling continually. There is no stability on a bike. It's just there is so much perfect correction. We have trained ourselves that we have the appearance of stability. We can increase our stable attention and stability of our attention. And that's what this technique is all about. It's just simply about giving us the ability to focus and decide where we're going to place our attention. It's going into a mental gym. It can be as little as 5 to 15 minutes a day, and it makes a dramatic impact upon you. Why is it important for leaders? Well, in the last talk tomorrow, I talked about the concept of leadership charisma, of what it is that certain leaders have, what behaviors they deploy that make them engaging leaders. Let me tell you that you cannot choose as a leader to deploy certain behaviors unless you're self-aware enough of what behaviors you're deploying right now. You have to know, here's the way I'm behaving right now, here's the way I'm reacting, here's the way I want to react. So it's very much, self-awareness is very much at the core of charismatic leadership. And Bill Clinton is a former US president. And he was known for many things in his time. And he'd probably be remembered for one more than another, and that's not what I'm going to talk about today. Those of you who are old enough will know that he had a particular reputation. But before that reputation ever came along, he was known as being a very charismatic leader. And he was known as being charismatic. One of the things that they knew him for was this extraordinary ability he had to give you his absolute total attention. When you spoke to this man, anybody who reports on him says that they felt like they were the only person in the room, like he was absolutely with them. Clinton, as it happens, practiced mindfulness. But you think of it, if you can be self-aware enough that you are able to place your attention anywhere you need to place it, and you can place it with the person you're spending time with that you should be listening to or you want to listen to, that has a dramatic impact upon the quality of that relationship. It'll have a dramatic impact upon the quality of the relationships you have with your peers, with your subordinates, and with your superiors. This is my friend, Dr. Ellen Langer again. I say my friend, she's not actually my friend. Because we're recording this, I don't want anybody to say, I'm not your friend. She feels like a friend. And in 30 years of research, they've said, increased mindfulness, increased presence, and you increase charisma. Why is it particularly important for leaders? It's at core of leadership, charisma. It wires your brain for approach mode. One of the things that you notice about great leaders is they are always on the lookout for opportunities to change things, to be creative, to make things happen. They are not risk-averse or risk avoiders. It's a core component of emotional intelligence. I said earlier on that without the self-awareness that comes from this, you don't ever get started on deploying those behaviors that are emotional intelligence. And finally, it actually gives you a practical tool set that allows you to implement the model that you'll read about in that white paper that Rick and his team will send to you. They go into much more detail in that model than I possibly can. There's such an impact of mindfulness on engaging people that, again, this is my friend again, Ellen Langer. She says that really probably our task is as leaders to harness distributed mindfulness. Let me finish off with 2 or 3 slides, and I took all of the studies that I could find, and I looked at all of the benefits that they spoke about, and I put them all on a chart. And I charted them against individual benefits. So as an individual, if you chose or if your people got the opportunity to become more mindful and to be trained to be mindful, things like heightened energy, reduced stress, greater focus and concentration, better sleep, and you can breathe as well as I can. From an organizational perspective, all of the studies show greater communication, better relationships, enhanced creativity, heightened emotional intelligence, and so on. And if you're a leader, that's just as good as it gets. So I'm going to go back, all the way back to the beginning and say to you, in my experience, a lot of years, there are very few things that will give you as big a return on a broad a basis as creating a culture that allows for mindfulness. There's a nice little side benefit. Do you recognize this thing? You know the concept of a snow globe. Yeah. Some of the speakers on this topic use a great analogy. I couldn't find a snow globe big enough to do a demonstration. But they use a great analogy. They talk about typically the majority of us, pre-mindfulness, are a little bit like a snow globe in the sense that we've been shaken up. And all those little dots are thoughts just flying around in our minds and swirling around. And the one thing that you notice there is there's so much going on, there's a complete lack of clarity. What happens when you learn